how Japanese minimalism helped me let go of my past. Have you ever felt like your past is holding you back like invisible chains? What if we told you that a simple Japanese philosophy could help you break free and find peace? Today, we're diving into how Japanese minimalism became the key to letting go. The weight we didn't know we carried. We all carry baggage, don't we? Not just the physical stuff cluttering our homes, but the emotional weight of past mistakes, regrets, and memories that seem to follow us everywhere. For years, we thought this was just part of being human. We believed that holding on to things, both physical and emotional, somehow kept us connected to who we were. But here's what we discovered. Sometimes the very things we think define us are actually the things that limit us. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you walked into a room and felt overwhelmed by all the stuff around you? Now imagine that same feeling, but with your thoughts and emotions. That's exactly what was happening to us, and we didn't even realize it. The turning point came when we stumbled upon something beautiful and simple. It wasn't a revolutionary new therapy or a complex self-help system. It was something much more elegant, the Japanese approach to minimalism. And no, we're not just talking about having fewer things in your house, though that's definitely part of it. What Japanese minimalism really means. When most people hear minimalism, they picture empty white rooms with maybe one perfectly placed plant. But Japanese minimalism goes so much deeper than that. It's rooted in ancient philosophies that have been helping people find peace for thousands of years. The Japanese have this concept called ma, which refers to the beauty of empty spaces. It's not about having nothing, it's about creating room for what truly matters. Then there's wabi-sabi, the art of finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. These aren't just design principles, they're ways of living that can completely transform how we relate to our past. What struck us most was how different this felt from Western ideas about minimalism. In the West, we often approach minimalism as a way to optimize our lives, to become more productive or efficient. But Japanese minimalism is more about acceptance and letting things flow naturally. It teaches us that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply let go. We started to realize that just like a cluttered room makes it hard to think clearly, a cluttered mind filled with past regrets and what-ifs makes it impossible to live fully in the present. The Japanese approach showed us that clearing external space and clearing internal space go hand in hand. The connection between space and mind. Here's something fascinating that researchers have been discovering. Studies show that people who live in cluttered environments have higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, throughout the day. But we found something even more interesting. The same principle applies to our emotional landscape. When we hold on to past hurts, old grudges, or regrets about things we can't change, we're essentially cluttering our mental space. Just like physical clutter makes it harder to find what we need, emotional clutter makes it harder to access peace, joy, and contentment in our daily lives. The Japanese practice of mono no aware teaches us about the gentle sadness of things passing away. Instead of fighting against change or trying to hold on to what's gone, we learn to appreciate the natural flow of life. This perspective completely shifted how we looked at our own past experiences. We began to see that our attachment to past events, even painful ones, was like trying to hold water in our hands. The tighter we squeezed, the more it slipped away, and the more frustrated we became. But when we learned to cup our hands gently and let the water flow, we could appreciate its beauty without needing to possess it. This understanding became the foundation for everything that followed. We realized that letting go of our past wasn't about forgetting or pretending things didn't happen. It was about changing our relationship with those experiences. Starting small, the physical release. The journey began with something surprisingly simple. We started with our closets. Following the Japanese principle of keeping only what sparks joy or serves a clear purpose, we began removing clothes that carried emotional baggage. That shirt from a job we hated, the dress from a relationship that ended badly, the jacket we bought during a particularly difficult time in our lives. Each item we removed felt like lifting a small weight off our shoulders. We weren't just making space in our wardrobes, we were making space in our hearts. The process was gentle but powerful. Instead of rushing to get rid of everything at once, we took time with each decision, honoring what each item had meant to us before choosing to let it go. From there, we moved to other areas of our homes: old letters, photographs that brought up painful memories, gifts from people who were no longer in our lives in positive ways. The Japanese concept of ikigai, our reason for being, helped us ask better questions. Does this item support who we are becoming, or does it keep us tied to who we used to be? What struck us was how this physical process began to mirror what was happening emotionally. As we created more space in our physical environment, we naturally began to feel more spacious internally. Our minds felt clearer, our emotions more balanced. We were learning that external change and internal change support each other in beautiful ways. The key was approaching this process with the Japanese spirit of mindfulness and respect. We didn't throw things away with anger or frustration. Instead, we thanked each item for what it had taught us or how it had served us, then gently released it to make room for new experiences and growth. The emotional decluttering process. Once we got comfortable with physical decluttering, we naturally started applying the same principles to our emotional landscape. This was where the real transformation began. Just like we had learned to identify which physical objects served our current life and which ones kept us stuck in the past, we began to examine our thoughts and emotions with the same gentle awareness. The Japanese practice of zazen, or sitting meditation, became incredibly helpful here. Instead of trying to push away difficult emotions or memories, we learned to sit with them quietly and observe them without judgment. This is very different from how we typically handle emotional pain in Western culture, where we often try to fix, analyze, or quickly move past difficult feelings. What we discovered is that many of the emotional patterns we thought were just part of our personality were actually habits we had developed in response to past experiences. Things like always expecting the worst to happen, having trouble trusting new people, or feeling like we didn't deserve good things. These patterns had served us at some point, maybe even protected us, but they were now keeping us from fully experiencing life. The process of emotional decluttering involved asking ourselves questions similar to the ones we used for physical items. Does this belief serve who we're becoming? Does this emotional pattern help us connect with others and experience joy? Does holding on to this resentment actually protect us, or does it limit our ability to love and be loved? What made this process so powerful was the Japanese emphasis on gentleness and acceptance. We weren't trying to become perfect or eliminate all negative emotions. We were simply creating more space for peace, joy, and authentic connection by releasing the emotional clutter that no longer served us. The ripple effect. How others noticed. As we continued this journey, something beautiful started happening. People in our lives began to comment on changes they noticed in us. Friends mentioned that we seemed more present during conversations, less distracted by worries about past mistakes or future anxieties. Family members noted that we appeared calmer, more patient, and somehow lighter. What was particularly interesting was how our new approach to minimalism affected our relationships. By letting go of grudges and resentments from past relationships, we found ourselves more open to connecting authentically with people in our present. We stopped bringing the baggage from previous friendships or romantic relationships into new connections. The practice of omotenashi, the art of selfless service and hospitality, became a natural part of how we interacted with others. When we're not constantly processing our own emotional clutter, we have so much more energy available to really listen to others, to be present with them, and to offer genuine support when they need it. We also noticed that our living spaces began to feel different to visitors. People would comment on how peaceful and welcoming our homes felt, even though we had fewer things than before. There was something about the intentional empty spaces, the carefully chosen objects, and the overall sense of calm that seemed to affect everyone who entered. This ripple effect taught us an important lesson about how our internal state affects everything around us. When we carry less emotional baggage, we're able to be more generous, more patient, and more loving with the people in our lives. Our relationships became deeper and more meaningful because we were showing up as our authentic selves rather than as people weighed down by their past. daily practices that keep us grounded. Living this way isn't something that happens once and then you're then in. Like any meaningful practice, it requires daily attention and care. We've developed some simple daily practices inspired by Japanese minimalism that help us maintain this sense of lightness and presence. Each morning, we spend a few minutes in quiet reflection, similar to the Japanese practice of Rajyo Taiso, or morning exercises, but for the mind and spirit. We ask ourselves what emotional baggage we might be carrying from yesterday that we can choose to release today. Sometimes it's a conversation that didn't go well. Sometimes it's worry about something we can't control. Or sometimes it's just general anxiety about the future. Throughout the day, we practice mindful minimalism in small ways. Before making purchases, we pause and ask whether this item will add genuine value to our lives or if we're buying it to fill an emotional need. When we feel ourselves getting caught up in regrets about the past or worries about the future, we use simple breathing techniques to bring ourselves back to the present moment. Evenings have become a time for gentle reflection and gratitude. Instead of replaying the day's problems or stressing about tomorrow's challenges, we focus on what went well, what we learned, and what we can appreciate about our current circumstances. This practice of arigato, or gratitude, helps us maintain perspective and prevents new emotional clutter from accumulating. One of our favorite practices is the weekly space clearing ritual, where we spend time both tidying our physical environment and checking in with our emotional state. This isn't about achieving perfection, but about maintaining the spaciousness and peace that we've worked to create. What we've learned about letting go. The most profound thing we've discovered through this journey is that letting go isn't really about getting rid of things. It's about changing our relationship with them. We still have memories of past experiences, but they no longer define us or limit our possibilities for the future. Japanese minimalism taught us that there's incredible beauty in impermanence. The cherry blossoms that the Japanese celebrate so deeply are beautiful precisely because they bloom for such a short time. Similarly, our past experiences, even the difficult ones, have their own beauty when we can see them as temporary moments that contributed to our growth, rather than permanent fixtures that define our worth. We learned that holding on to the past isn't actually about love or loyalty to our experiences. It's usually about fear. Fear that if we let go of our old stories, we won't know who we are anymore. Fear that if we release our resentments, we'll be vulnerable to being hurt again. Fear that if we stop defining ourselves by our past struggles, we won't be special or interesting. But what we discovered is exactly the opposite. When we let go of these old stories and identities, we don't become nothing. We become everything we're capable of being. We become present, open, authentic, and free to respond to life as it actually is, rather than as we expect it to be based on past experiences. The Japanese concept of kaizen, continuous small improvements, showed us that this process doesn't have to be dramatic or overwhelming. Small, consistent changes in how we relate to our possessions, our thoughts, and our emotions can create profound transformations over time. Your journey starts now. If you're feeling inspired to begin your own journey with Japanese minimalism and letting go of the past, remember that this is a gentle process. You don't need to completely overhaul your life overnight. Start with one small area, maybe a single drawer, or just 5 minutes of quiet reflection each morning. The beauty of this approach is that it meets you wherever you are. Whether you're dealing with recent disappointments or carrying wounds from many years ago, the principles remain the same. Create space, practice acceptance, focus on the present moment, and trust in the natural flow of life. Remember that letting go doesn't mean becoming emotionless or disconnected. It means becoming free to experience the full range of human emotions without being trapped by them. It means honoring your past without being imprisoned by it. It means opening yourself to possibilities you can't even imagine when you're weighed down by emotional baggage. As we wrap up today, we want to leave you with this thought. Your past has already given you everything it has to offer. The lessons, the strength, the wisdom. You've received all of that. Now it's time to create space for what's waiting to unfold in your life. The Japanese call this ma, the fertile emptiness that makes room for new growth. What will you choose to let go of today to make space for the life you truly want to live? The journey begins with a single, gentle step forward into the spaciousness of now.